Let's now talk about the history of discourse historical approach, which may be important to decode its formation at various stages. A short history of DHA may be divided into 4 stages. First stage starts somewhere by the end of the previous century, and it may span over 6 years from 1987 to 1993. And the first pioneer study which was conducted in DHA is considered to be Anti-Literum, a study which focused on the construction of anti-Semitic discourses in Europe. And this was conducted in Vienna, where the Viennese critical discourse analysis became popular during this phase. I would like to share that this probably is a phase where critical discourse analysis also became popular in the Europe. This project brought forward 4 important aspects of discourse historical approach. First of all, it informed us that this is very much an interdisciplinary study, especially when we have to align historical and social aspects of a discourse into an analysis. We need to involve more than one angles to look into this. Therefore, this would, ideally speaking, would involve including many other social and cultural studies also. Then it also informed us that DHA is very much a teamwork also, in a sense, when you have to involve more than one studies and more than one aspects of social sciences into a project, you probably would like to consult more experts into a project. So therefore, DHA turns out to be a teamwork. It also involves triangulation of data as well as methods. It is good that you involve more than one methods or tools and theories into a typical discourse historical study. Then this project also led us to know that DHA would believe in applying the findings in reality. It believes in the practical implication and application of whatever has been studied. The pioneering discourse analytical research combined sociolinguistics and studies on narration, stylistics, rhetoric, and argumentation with historical and sociological research. So you can see that this shows us that it's very much interdisciplinary. In the second half of the 1980s, additional DHA research was published where it was examined in news broadcasts and guidelines for non-sexist language use, and administrative texts were also analyzed. And this phase was defined by these 4 important aspects of DHA. And next phase, which spans over 1993 to 1997, we see DHA further prospering in Vienna, where DHA became institutionalized somehow. Here we can see that discourse historical approach was increasingly becoming popular, and there was many other studies which were being conducted at the same time. And we can see studies on racist discrimination in European discourse, European popular discourses, as well as about discourses against a certain community, for example, against the migrants from Romania. Then there was a study on the discourse about the nation and national identity in Austria, which also became popular, and it's considered to be one of the important studies of this phase. And then we also looked into the discursive construction of national sameness and differences in various political discourses, which leads to the exclusion of certain political or social classes from a society. And phase 3, we can see that this spans over from 1997 to 2003, and this is marked by the construction of a research center which is known as Discourse, Politics and Identity. This research center was founded by Ruth Woodick. Ruth Woodick is considered to be the pioneer of discourse historical approach. Utilizing the resources she got from a prize, she established this center, and through this center she funded many discourse historical approach studies and projects, and also hired researchers. The topics and social issues which were investigated during 1997 to 2003, especially under the umbrella of this center, can be seen as overt and covert. Covert form of racism. Focus was on racism, especially in European discourses, parliamentary discourses, not only European Parliament, but of the parliaments of various members of European Union. It was seen that what kind of racism is being raised through those parliaments. Then internal communication in organization of European Union, and discourses of unemployment in European Union. Then construction of European identities in German, British, and French speeches of politicians. This was a study conducted by Woodick and Weiss in 2005. It is also considered to be an important study of this phase. Then the Austrian discourse on the enlargement of the European Union. There was always a difference between the enlargement of European Union or restricting it to where it was. So there was various voices. So many studies investigated those voices, including a study by Galeniska. So and other researchers also. Then there was also the issue of permanent Austrian neutrality, which was studied during this phase, and the controversial discourse on the role of Germans during World War II was also investigated during this phase. At phase 4 is very critical and is the most recent one. It not only popularized discourse historical approach, but it also make it an international form of analysis. So it may be called as a stage which actually internationalized discourse historical approach. There was 2 research projects which marked the transition from 3rd to 4th stage, and I'll just mention those projects. First was analyzed the print media discourse on the constitution of European Union, and how it was mediated by the media, print media, and interpreted by the print media. There was many studies. There were many studies about it. Then we had the other study, pioneer study during this phase, which focused on the discourses of integration, discrimination, and migration in the European Union, and it looked into these 3 important aspects of the merger of European Union, and brought forward some interesting findings about the voices of various nations which actually constituted European Union. At this stage, DHA, discourse historical approach, also moved away from the non-English speaking Europe to English speaking Europe also. For example, a Lancaster study, Lancaster University became a center for DHA when Ruth Woodick was offered a chair there, and she became a second. She established a center of DHA there, and this center became very popular. Then in the following years, DHA reached other corners of the world also, especially Europe. Universities of Loughborough, Bern, and Orpro, they also became the centers for research about discourse historical approach. Then in Vienna, former research interest dominated. For example, the interaction between doctors and patients or other professionals, and feminist critical discourse analysis, they remained the focus of discourse historical approaches. Recently, discourse historical approach has been focusing on fascist discourses of certain political groups, as well as some kind of popular discourse of right-wing parties, which are taking precedence over, which are taking primacy over other parties in recent years in various parts of the world. Similarly, the discourses on environment and climate change are also becoming very popular. DH is also is trying to reach other genres also, not only about popular or political discourse. It is also involving many other genres. For example, it is working on comics, leaflets, political posters, documentaries, and many other forms of text are being now analyzed through the angle of DHA. DHA is, to sum up, is flexible. It invites more than one angles to look into an issue, and it allows the researcher to involve more than one methods and tools to analyze a certain text. It is interdisciplinary. It's somehow is essential to discourse historical approach to be interdisciplinary, because when you have to trace the history of a certain discourse and its construction critically, you would naturally be tempted to involve other social sciences, for example, sociology, political science, and history also. But still, we cannot say that discourse historical approach in this way has been divorced from from linguistics. Its roots are still in linguistics, because the main tools which we employ to analyze all kinds of discourses are very much linguistic.